Hello plant lovers, it's Matthew in Melbourne welcoming you back to my channel. Thank you very much for finding me. If you're new, I grow cold, cool, intermediate orchids here in Melbourne without any assistance from heat mats or humidifiers or grow lights, etc, etc. My orchids are either outdoors or indoors, or they're not here at all. So if that rings any bells, do hit subscribe. I post every week. And I am a rank amateur, but one of the orchids I have discovered that just does so well in my environment, ladies and gentlemen, is the Masdevallia. And look at this one. I just had to show you because it's got 3 blooms this year. It had 1 last year, which I was extremely excited about because it was the first year of me growing Masdevallia. And this year it's got 3, so I'm doubly excited. And it is Masdevallia Copper Sun Humongous. Not a very poetic name, and perhaps not that literal, because I mean they're large but not that big. But it is an incredible orange, isn't it? It is an orange. I don't know how else to describe that except that it's orange. And I don't know, you don't often get such a vivid orange in the orchid world, I don't think. So I'm just thrilled with this. Now, as you can see, the flowers really curl back. So Masdevallia kind of famed, I guess, for those sort of whiskers that they have, but this one really curves back rather than being very open and presenting. That might be a negative for you. It's not for me. I just love it. Masdevallia are not fragrant, although perhaps there are some that are, some hybrids, but in my experience they're not. And they are spring bloomers, and I guess it depends exactly where you are. I have heard people say that their Masdevallias bloom sporadically throughout the year. I don't know. Here for me, they are very seasonal. It's just once a year and it's always in spring. Depending on the orchid, sometimes it's very early spring, almost late winter. And like this one, quite well into spring. I'd be interested to know if you get Masdevallias that flower throughout the year, multiply, and what part of the world you might be in. They are a altitude cool grower. So one of the things Masdevallia do not like, plant lovers, is hot temperatures. And I'm here to tell you that sunburn, can you see that? Where's this leaf here? I'll come in and show you anyway. I've got to prove, there we are, prove my bad parenting of this orchid. But here's the thing, when you read about Masdevallia, people will often say, oh, they must not be shown the harsh light of day. They're a cool grower, which is true, that needs shade, and on the spectrum of shades of orchids, really on the shadier side of shade. But revolutionary talk here, I let my Masdevallias get early morning, direct, but filtered sunlight. And in winter, they get slightly more direct filtered sunlight. So I would not describe these as being low light, but they do need to be in low temperatures. So I guess one often goes with the other. So if you can create a cool environment that's quite lit, particularly in winter, you should do well with Masdevallia. Typical free draining medium, although I'm here to tell you, and this is a terrible confession, with my Masdevallia I use out of the bag generic orchid potting mix from a hardware store. It's just a little bit grittier, there's a bit more soil I guess in it, and my experience has been that these Masdevallias love it. Still free draining, and it's not potting mix, but it's just a little bit soilier than your average quite loose orchid bark. And as you can see, this is a baby that does not have pseudobulbs, which means it's very susceptible to drying out and to stress with regards to water. So this is one of the things that you need to keep your eye on and not to let dry out. And I'm a terracotta pot kind of guy, but with Masdevallia, that can be a problem in summer. In hot, particularly hot, windy weather, the pots will dry out really quickly. So the plus is, they evaporate and free drain really well, so they don't keep the roots soggy of any orchid, and they create a bit of sort of extra humidity around the plant. The negative is in hot, windy weather, it's going to dry out really quickly, so you might have to water these orchids every day if you're in somewhere that gets reasonably warm summers, and I do. So saying again, the maximum summer temperatures in Melbourne can be pretty high. We can, not regularly, but we do go over 40 degrees, which is 110-ish, I think, Fahrenheit. Hot. Luckily for us in Melbourne, we don't have those weather conditions often or for long, so the evenings do cool down. So our maximum summer temperatures tend to be still warm, but not that extreme. Extreme heat, these plants do not love, but mine have been outside now for 2 summers outside under shelter, so they're not rained on. And they've had to deal with some pretty extreme summer maximums, I must say. And I have had no untoward reaction from them, I must say. But really, plant lovers, all I wanted to show you today was these 3 glorious blooms. There we are. So if you are in a climate not dissimilar to mine, which is a cold, cool, intermediate zone, give Masdevallia a go. They are really not that difficult. I don't give them any particular special care. The only thing is, it just took me a while to find the perfect spot which gets that amount of direct light and then protection. And in fact, I don't move them throughout the year. And many of my orchids I do. I move them to get more or less light as the season progresses. But these stay in the same spot. So they get more direct sunlight in winter and less in summer, nonetheless always filtered light and protection from the rain. And my climate, plant lovers, is Australia doesn't have the same growing zone categories as the United States, because our issue is not hardiness and minimum temperatures, it's actually maximum temperatures and rainfall. So I am in Melbourne, which is southeast. We are either described as cool Mediterranean or warm temperate, but it means that our winters don't freeze, although they can get very close, and we can have hot, dry summers, but they can also be a little damp and a little cool. But strangely enough, our climate is quite similar to a lot of spots in South America, which is where these come from. There we go. A very quick Masdevallia 101, because I have made a video before. I hope you are loving this as much as me. I did go on a bit of a Masdevallia buying binge because I just felt I was unnatural with them. And I do have a follow-up about accidentally buying 2 white ones, but we'll get to that because it's about to open. So that'll be a follow-up Masdevallia. Thank you very much for finding me. Thank you very much for watching. Thank you very much for subscribing. And I look forward to seeing you next week with another of my amateurish but continuing and passionate orchid adventures.